The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning when Coalition Command issued new orders to Earth's military forces. General Kate Williams read the directive 3 times before she believed what she was seeing. "They want us to provide troops for a peacekeeping mission in the Outer Rim," she told Admiral Harrison over secure communication. 12,000 human soldiers to help establish order on recently contacted worlds. Jake looked at the mission, files on his screen. The target worlds were listed as primitive civilizations requiring guidance integration. The language made his stomach turn. "These aren't peacekeeping missions, Kate. They're invasions." "I know that, and you know that. But try explaining it to the Coalition Council. They've dressed it up in diplomatic language, but the weapons requirements tell the real story." Commander Nick Parker, leading a transport squadron near the Centauri colonies, had seen Coalition peacekeeping firsthand. His ships were often used to carry Coalition forces to worlds that resisted integration. What he witnessed there haunted him. "The Velhani system put up a fight last month," he reported during the weekly briefing. "Their crime was refusing to open their gateway to Coalition oversight. I watched Zeftar battle cruisers glass their military installations from orbit. Then they landed troops to restore order." The reports kept getting worse. Coalition forces were expanding into uncharted regions, bringing unwilling civilizations into their sphere of control. Any species that refused was labeled as dangerous and dealt with accordingly. But the final insult came when the Coalition announced mandatory relocations on human colony worlds. "Attention human residents of New Geneva," the broadcast began. "Due to expanding Zeftar development requirements, all human settlements in sectors 7 through 15 must be evacuated within 48 hours. Temporary housing will be provided on orbital platforms while suitable relocation sites are identified." Coordinator Alan Brooks watched from his office as families who had lived on New Geneva for a decade packed their belongings into small containers. Children cried as they were forced to leave homes they had known their entire lives. Parents tried to explain why they had to give up everything they had worked for. The Zeftar didn't want the human homes or farms. They simply wanted the land, cleared so they could build monument complexes to their ancient leaders. Structures that would serve no purpose except to display Zeftar power and importance. "This isn't right," Brooks said to his assistant. "These people built this colony from nothing. They turned dead rock into farmland. Now they're being thrown out so the Zeftar can build statues?" His assistant, a young woman named Kelly Davis, looked out at the evacuation. "What choice do we have? The Coalition Council approved the relocation. If we resist, they'll send peacekeepers." Commander Parker arrived that afternoon to oversee the transport of displaced families to the orbital platforms. What he found there made him sick. The platforms were overcrowded, understaffed, and barely adequate for human life. Families were crammed into spaces meant for cargo. Children had no room to play. Adults had no privacy or dignity. "How long do we have to stay here?" an elderly man asked Parker. The man's name was Robert Chen, and he had been a teacher on New Geneva for 8 years. "I don't know," Parker answered honestly. "The Coalition says they're looking for suitable relocation sites, but there's no timeline." That night, Parker sent an encrypted report back to Earth Command. He included video footage of the conditions on the orbital platforms and interviews with displaced families. His message was clear: the Coalition had gone too far. The worst incident happened 3 days later. A group of children on Platform 7 had been playing in a restricted area when Coalition security forces arrived. Instead of simply telling them to leave, the Zeftar guards used neural suppressors on the kids. The neural suppressors were designed to cause temporary paralysis and confusion. When used on adult humans, the effects lasted a few hours. When used on children, the damage was permanent. 5 kids between ages 6 and 10 suffered severe brain trauma. 2 would never speak again. When human parents demanded an explanation, they were told the children had been engaging in disruptive behavior that required immediate correction. The Coalition refused to provide medical treatment, claiming the neural suppressors were standard disciplinary tools approved for use on all species. Commander Parker watched the human medical team work desperately to help the injured children. Dr. Rachel Stone, the platform's chief medical officer, had tears in her eyes as she examined the brain scans. "The damage is extensive," she told Parker, privately. "These suppressors weren't meant for human children. The Coalition knows that. They used them anyway." Parker made a decision that would change everything. He sent a direct transmission to Earth, bypassing Coalition communication channels entirely. The message included medical records, testimony from witnesses, and a formal request for immediate evacuation of all humans from Coalition space. "They hurt our kids," he said in the transmission. "They destroyed our homes, treated us like animals, and when our children played too loudly, they brain damaged them. This isn't peacekeeping. This isn't civilization. This is cruelty, and I won't be part of it anymore." The transmission reached Earth within hours. President Rodriguez watched it in his office with Admiral Harrison and the Earth Council. The room was silent except for the sound of grown men and women crying as they watched footage of injured children and homeless families. "How many humans are still in Coalition space?" Rodriguez asked quietly. "About 50,000, Admiral Harrison replied. "Scattered across 12 worlds and various space stations." Dr. Emma Clark, who had been monitoring Coalition Gateway activities, spoke up. "Mr. President, there's something else. My analysis of recent Coalition transmissions suggests they're planning to implement the Human Integration Protocol within days, not months." "What exactly is this protocol?" General Williams asked. Emma pulled up classified files she had obtained through careful hacking. "It's a genetic modification program. They want to alter human DNA to make us more compliant and less aggressive. They're calling it evolutionary improvement, but it's really about creating a permanent slave class." President Rodriguez stood up slowly. "They want to change what we are, to make us into something that will never resist them." "The files suggest they plan to start with children," Emma continued. "Mandatory genetic therapy for all humans under age 16. They claim it will make us healthier and more compatible with Coalition society." Admiral Harrison slammed his hand on the table. "They want to lobotomize our kids, turn them into docile workers who will never question authority or demand better treatment." The room erupted in angry voices, but President Rodriguez raised his hand for silence. "The question is simple. Do we submit to this, or do we fight?" "How can we fight?" General Williams asked. "We're one species against thousands. Our military is tiny compared to Coalition forces." Dr. Clark smiled grimly. "Actually, we might have an advantage they don't know about. The Gateway network has a fatal flaw. Earth's Gateway is a master hub with override capabilities. The Coalition either forgot about this feature or never understood it in the first place." "What does that mean?" Rodriguez asked. "It means we can shut down the entire network. Not just Earth's Gate, but all of them. The Coalition depends on instant communication and transportation across thousands of light years. Without the Gateway network, they can't coordinate their forces or maintain control over their territory." Admiral Harrison leaned forward. "You're talking about collapsing galactic civilization." "I'm talking about freeing every species the Coalition has enslaved," Emma replied, "including us." President Rodriguez looked around the room at Earth's leadership. These were good people who had tried to work within the Coalition system. They had followed the rules, paid their taxes, and provided everything that was asked of them. In return, their people had been exploited, their children had been hurt, and now their very humanity was under threat. "The Coalition has shown us what galactic civilization really means," he said finally. "Slavery with better technology, oppression with prettier words. They've had their chance to treat us fairly, and they chose cruelty instead." He turned to Dr. Clark. "How long would it take to prepare the shutdown sequence?" "With the right team and resources, maybe 2 weeks. But once we start, there's no going back. The Coalition will realize what we're doing and try to stop us. Then we better be ready to defend ourselves," Admiral Harrison said. "Because once we seal that gate, we're on our own." President Rodriguez nodded. "So be it. The Coalition went too far when they hurt our children. Now they want to change what we are. I say it's time to show them what humans can do when they're truly free. The decision was made. Earth would cut all ties with galactic civilization and seal the gateway, forever. It was a choice between comfortable slavery and dangerous freedom. For humanity, there was really no choice at all. Project Independence began in absolute secrecy. Only 12 people on Earth knew about the plan to sever all ties with the Galactic Coalition. Each had a specific role that would determine whether humanity lived free or died as slaves. Chief Engineer Tom Bradley worked 18-hour days in a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. His team of Earth's best scientists and engineers was reverse engineering Coalition technology, but not to copy it. They were learning how to break it. The Gateway Network is more complex than we thought, Tom told Dr. Emma Clark during their daily briefing. It's not just transportation. The whole thing is a control system that monitors and influences every connected world. Emma nodded as she studied the technical displays. That's why shutting it down will be so effective. The Coalition has become completely dependent on instant communication across their empire. Without it, they can't coordinate anything. Meanwhile, Admiral Jake Harrison was coordinating the most dangerous part of the operation. 50,000 humans were scattered across Coalition space, and they all had to be evacuated without alerting Coalition authorities. Admiral Grace Thompson, Earth's top naval commander, had volunteered to lead the evacuation efforts. She took her fleet to Coalition space under the cover of routine supply missions. Her ships carried extra supplies, medical equipment, and hidden passenger compartments. We can't save everyone at once, she told Harrison over encrypted communication. We'll have to extract people in small groups over several months. The evacuation began with the most vulnerable humans, the children who were targeted for genetic modification and the families on overcrowded orbital platforms. Captain Linda Hayes used her merchant vessel to smuggle families away from Platform 7, where the kids had been hurt by neural suppressors. Tell my wife we're coming home, Robert Chen said as he carried his granddaughter aboard Hayes' ship. The little girl still couldn't speak after the neural suppressor attack, but her eyes showed she understood they were going somewhere safe. Captain Hayes had to make difficult choices about who to evacuate first. Her ship could only carry 30 people per trip, and there were thousands who needed rescue. She chose based on who was in the most immediate danger. On the Coalition capital world, secret agent Carlos Rivera had infiltrated the government databases. What he found made him work even faster to get the information back to Earth. The human integration protocol was worse than anyone had imagined. The Coalition wasn't just planning to modify human children. They wanted to alter the DNA of every human in the galaxy to create what they called improved compliance traits. The files showed test results from other species that had undergone similar modifications. The Cathari had once been warriors and explorers. After genetic improvement, they became docile craftsmen who never questioned authority. The ocean-dwelling Aquari had been scientists and philosophers. Now they were living computers who processed data for Coalition administrators. They're going to lobotomize our entire species, Rivera transmitted to Earth. Turn us into organic machines that work without complaint. The evacuation accelerated as more humans learned about the integration protocol. Colonel Ryan Mitchell organized an underground network to move people from remote colonies to evacuation points. He used old mining tunnels and abandoned installations to hide families waiting for transport. Keep groups small, he told his team leaders. No more than 5 people moving together. If the Coalition catches us, we're all dead. But moving 50,000 people without being noticed was nearly impossible. Coalition intelligence began detecting unusual patterns in human movement. Ships that should have been carrying ore were running with lighter loads. Colonies were reporting smaller populations during routine censuses. Back on Earth, Dr. Clark made a breakthrough that changed everything. While studying the Gateway Network, she discovered that Earth's gateway was special. It wasn't just a connection point, it was a master control hub that could override the entire system. The Coalition either forgot about this feature or never understood it, she told President Rodriguez. Earth's gateway was built by whoever created the original network. It has capabilities that even the Coalition doesn't know about. This meant Earth could not only shut down their own gateway but could crash the entire galactic network. Every connected world would be cut off from instant communication and transportation. The Coalition's empire would collapse overnight. The discovery also revealed something else. The Gateway Network had been built by an ancient civilization that had faced the same choice Earth was facing now. Rather than submit to control, they had destroyed their own network and disappeared from galactic history. We're not the first species to make this choice, Emma realized. Someone else chose freedom over slavery, and they left us the tools to do the same. Admiral Thompson's evacuation efforts were working, but slowly. Her ships could only carry a few hundred people per month without attracting attention. At this rate, it would take years to get everyone out of Coalition space. Then Coalition security began random inspections of human-operated vessels. Captain Hayes barely escaped detection when Coalition agents searched her ship during what should have been a routine supply run. Hidden passenger compartments were discovered on 2 other evacuation ships, resulting in the arrest of their crews and passengers. "We need to speed this up," Admiral Harrison told President Rodriguez. "The Coalition knows something is happening. They're getting suspicious of human activities." The pressure increased when Coalition Command announced accelerated implementation of the Human Integration Protocol. Instead of months, they now plan to begin genetic modifications within weeks. The target was every human child in Coalition. Space Dr. Rachel Stone, still treating the injured children from Platform 7, sent a desperate message to Earth. They're setting up genetic modification centers on every station with human populations. The equipment is already being installed. Once they start, those kids will never be human again. The choice became clear. Earth could either continue the slow evacuation and lose most of their people to genetic modification, or they could activate the shutdown sequence immediately and save whoever they could. President Rodriguez called an emergency meeting of the project leadership. "How many people can we evacuate in the next 2 weeks?" Admiral Thompson checked her reports. "Maybe 5,000. 10,000 if we abandon all secrecy and use every available ship. That leaves 40,000 humans in Coalition space," General Say Williams pointed out. "We'd be abandoning them." Dr. Clark looked up from her technical displays. "Actually, we might be saving them. When the Gateway Network crashes, the Coalition won't be able to coordinate the integration protocol. Local Coalition forces won't have the authority or resources to modify thousands of humans without support from Central Command." Carlos Rivera's intelligence report supported this theory. The Coalition government was highly centralized, dependent on instant communication to manage their vast empire. Without the Gateway Network, local administrators would be cut off from higher authority and too confused to implement major policy changes. "It's a gamble," Admiral Harrison admitted. "We're betting that Coalition forces will be too disrupted by the network collapse to hurt our people. But if we're wrong, we lose 40,000 people," Rodriguez finished. "But if we do nothing, we lose all of them. They'll all be genetically modified into slaves." The decision was made. Project Independence would accelerate to completion within 2 weeks. Every available Earth ship would rush to Coalition space for final evacuations while Dr. Clark prepared the shutdown sequence. Tom Bradley's engineering team worked around the clock to prepare Earth's defenses. They knew the Coalition would try to stop the shutdown once they realized what was happening. Earth needed to be ready for war. "We're going to make a lot of enemies," Bradley told his team. "Every species in the Coalition will blame us for crashing their civilization, but they also knew they were fighting for more than just humanity. The Gateway Network had enslaved dozens of species over thousands of years. By destroying it, Earth would free them all." The question was whether Earth could survive what came next. They were about to face the combined fury of galactic civilization, but they would face it as free humans, not as modified slaves. And that made all the difference. The final phase of Project Independence began at 0600 Earth Standard Time. President Rodriguez stood in the command center deep beneath the Colorado Mountains, watching displays that showed human ships racing across Coalition space on desperate rescue missions. Admiral Thompson reports successful evacuation from Kepler Station, Communications Officer Betty Walsh announced. 800 civilians aboard the transport convoy. Captain Hayes is loading refugees from the mining platforms. In the Vega system, another operator added. She estimates 400 souls aboard. Dr. Emma Clark monitored the gateway network from her control station. Energy readings showed normal operation, but she could see the Coalition was beginning to notice unusual human activity. Jake, we're getting increased Coalition patrol activity near Earth's gateway. I think they suspect something. Admiral Harrison studied the tactical displays. Earth's small defense fleet was positioned around the solar system, hidden behind asteroids and space debris. They were vastly outnumbered, but they had one advantage the Coalition didn't expect. Human technology had improved dramatically during the reverse engineering project. How long until you can start the shutdown sequence? Harrison asked Emma. I need 6 more hours to complete the final calculations, she replied. Once I start, the process will take approximately 30 minutes to cascade through the entire network. President Rodriguez opened a secure channel to all Earth forces. This is it, people. In 6 hours, we either succeed or we all die trying. Every human in Coalition space is depending on us. The Coalition discovered the evacuation when a patrol ship intercepted one of Admiral Thompson's transports. The refugee ship was carrying nearly 1,000 humans, including many children from the genetic modification program. When Coalition forces boarded the vessel, they found hidden passenger compartments and medical equipment meant to treat neural suppressor injuries. Within minutes, Coalition Command issued emergency alerts across their territory. All human vessels were ordered to stop for immediate inspection. Human colonies were placed under martial law. The integration protocol was accelerated to begin immediately. They know, Carlos Rivera transmitted from his hiding place on the Coalition capital world. Coalition security is arresting every human they can find. They're dragging kids as young as 6 years old to the modification centers. Admiral Thompson made a command decision that saved thousands of lives. Instead of trying to hide her remaining evacuation ships, she ordered them to make full speed runs to the nearest gateways. Her warships engaged Coalition patrols to buy time for the refugee transports. All ships, this is Admiral Thompson. Abandon stealth protocols. Get our people home at any cost. The space battle began over the Centauri colonies as Thompson's destroyers fought a running battle with Coalition cruisers. The human ships were smaller and faster, using hit-and-run tactics that frustrated the larger Coalition vessels. Commander Nick Parker led his squadron in a desperate attack against the Coalition forces surrounding Platform 7. Hundreds of human families were trapped there, including the children who had been injured by neural suppressors. We're not leaving anyone behind, Parker told his pilots as they dove through Coalition defensive fire. His fighters used modified Coalition weapons, turned against their creators with devastating effectiveness. Back on Earth, the Coalition finally understood what was happening. Ambassador Zethkar of the Zeftar Empire arrived through the gateway with a full diplomatic escort and a military fleet in close pursuit. President Rodriguez, Zethkar said as he strode into the gateway facility, "You will order your vessels to surrender immediately. This evacuation violates every Coalition treaty Earth has signed." Rodriguez stood his ground. "Those treaties became meaningless when you decided to modify our children into slaves." "The integration protocol is for your own benefit," the ambassador replied coldly. "Humans are too aggressive and unpredictable. Genetic improvement will make you better citizens of galactic civilization." "It will make us into something that isn't human anymore," Rodriguez shot back. "And that's unacceptable." Zethkar gestured, and Coalition soldiers moved to surround the president. "You have no choice in this matter. Earth will submit to Coalition authority, or Earth will be removed from the galaxy entirely." That's when the Coalition fleet arrived in Earth's solar system. 60 warships, representing a dozen different species, took positions around Earth. Their weapons were powered and ready to fire. "Attention, Earth," came the transmission from the flagship. "This is Admiral Kethval of the Coalition Defense Force. You have 1 hour to surrender all human vessels and submit to integration protocol implementation. Failure to comply will result in punitive action." In the command center, Admiral Harrison looked at the tactical display. 60 Coalition warships against Earth's 12 defensive platforms and 8 patrol vessels. The odds were impossible. "Emma, how much longer do you need?" he asked. 20 more minutes, Dr. Clark replied, sweat beading on her forehead as she worked frantically at her controls. The gateway network is fighting the shutdown commands. It's almost like it doesn't want to be turned off. President Rodriguez made a decision that would be remembered throughout human history. Instead of surrendering, he activated Earth's planetary defense systems. Hidden weapons platforms emerged from asteroid belts and orbital factories. The coalition fleet suddenly found itself facing twice as many targets as they had expected. "You want to fight?" Rodriguez transmitted to the coalition commander. "You'll get one." The Battle of Earth began as human defense platforms opened fire on the coalition fleet. Earth's weapons were based on modified coalition technology, but improved by human engineering. The first volley caught the enemy ships by surprise, destroying 3 cruisers and damaging twice as many. Admiral Harrison led Earth's patrol fleet in a coordinated attack against the coalition flagship. His ships were outnumbered, 8-1, but they used the solar system's gravity wells and asteroid fields to their advantage. "Remember, we're not trying to win this battle," Harrison told his captains. "We just need to buy Emma enough time to finish the shutdown." The space battle raged around Earth as coalition ships pressed their attack. Human platforms fought desperately, against overwhelming odds, using every trick and tactic their crews could devise. Commander Betty Walsh, now piloting a defense platform, scored direct hits on 2 coalition destroyers before her station was destroyed by return fire. Her last transmission was, "Tell Emma to hurry up." In the gateway facility, Dr. Clark watched her displays as the network shutdown reached critical mass. "It's working! The cascade is beginning!" Across the galaxy, gateways began failing as the shutdown sequence spread through the network. On the coalition capital world, massive gate rings went dark for the first time in thousands of years. Communication links between distant worlds suddenly went silent. Coalition Command tried desperately to stop the shutdown, but the cascade effect was unstoppable. World after world lost connection to the network as the ancient control systems finally responded to Emma's master override commands. 30 seconds until complete network collapse, Emma announced. Ambassador Zethkar realized what was happening. "You're destroying galactic civilization. Billions of beings depend on the gateway network. Then they'll have to learn to survive without it," President Rodriguez replied. "Just like we did before you found us." The final moment came as Earth's gateway began to overload. Energy coursed through the ancient ring structure as it prepared to seal itself forever. Dr. Clark watched her instruments as the network reached total collapse. "All gateways are offline," she announced. "Network shutdown complete." The coalition fleet found itself stranded in Earth's solar system, cut off from their home worlds with no way to call for reinforcements. Their ships were designed for short-range patrol duties, not extended combat operations far from their bases. Admiral Harrison opened a channel to the coalition commander. "Your network is gone. Your empire is in chaos. You have 2 choices. Surrender and accept repatriation to your homeworlds on our terms, or continue fighting a battle you can't win." The Battle of Earth ended not with explosions but with silence. The coalition fleet, realizing their situation was hopeless, powered down their weapons and requested terms of surrender. In coalition space, the humans who couldn't be evacuated found themselves suddenly free. Local coalition authorities, cut off from central command and confused by the network collapse, were too overwhelmed to implement the integration protocol. Many simply released their human prisoners and focused on maintaining basic order on their own worlds. Earth's gateway sealed itself with a brilliant flash of light that was visible from orbit. Where the ancient ring had stood, only melted metal remained. The connection to galactic civilization was severed permanently. President Rodriguez walked outside the command center and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, dozens of species were waking up to find themselves free from coalition control for the first time in millennia. Earth had chosen freedom over comfort, independence over security. They had sealed the gate after the galaxy went too far. Now they would find out if they could survive what came next. The desert sand burned hot under the African sun as Captain Jake Harrison wiped sweat from his forehead. His ship, the UES Horizon, sat waiting on the landing pad while his team worked below ground. They had been digging in the Sahara for 3 months now, following strange readings from their deep scanners. Dr. Lisa Martinez called out from the dig site. "Jake, you need to see this. We found something big." Her voice carried excitement and worry at the same time. Jake climbed down the metal ladder into the cool darkness of the excavation pit. Electric lights hung from cables, casting shadows on the walls. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. A massive ring stood buried in the sand, easily 50 feet across. The metal looked like nothing he had ever seen before. It was dark gray with lines of silver running through it like veins. "How old is this thing?" Jake asked, walking closer, to touch the smooth surface. Lisa checked her tablet. "Our tests say it's at least 10,000 years old. Maybe older. But Jake, that's not the strange part. Look at these symbols." She pointed to markings carved into the ring's surface. They glowed faintly with blue light. The ground started to shake. Dust fell from the ceiling as the ring began to hum with energy. Jake grabbed Lisa's arm and pulled her back. "Everyone out, move now." The workers ran for the ladders, but the shaking stopped as suddenly as it had started. The ring now glowed brighter, and the air inside it shimmered like water. Through the shimmer they could see another place, not the desert, but a room with white walls and beings that were not human. A figure stepped through the ring. It looked like a person but taller, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. It wore robes that seemed to glow with their own light. Behind it came two more beings different from the first. One looked like it was made of living crystal and the other seemed to float without legs. "Greetings," the blue-skinned being said in perfect English. "We are ambassadors from the Galactic Coalition. We have waited long for your world to activate the gateway." Jake stepped forward, his hand moving to his sidearm. "I'm Captain Jake Harrison of the United Earth Service. Who are you and what do you want?" The being raised its hands in peace. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Cathari people. We mean no harm. Your species has reached the level needed to join our great community of worlds. We wish to invite Earth into the coalition." Lisa moved beside Jake. "Coalition? You mean there are others out there? Other civilizations?" The crystal being spoke with a voice like wind chimes. "Thousands of worlds, Doctor. All connected by the Gateway Network. All living in peace under coalition guidance." Jake felt dizzy. First contact with aliens, and they were talking about thousands of worlds. He touched his radio. "Control, this is Harrison. I need you to contact President Santos immediately. Tell her we have a situation that requires her direct attention." Over the next few hours, more beings came through the gateway. They called themselves diplomats and scientists. They spoke of worlds made of crystal, gas giants where creatures lived in floating cities, and ocean planets covered in endless seas. They showed holographic pictures of massive space stations and ships that could travel faster than light. President Maria Santos arrived by military transport the next day. She was a small woman but carried herself with authority. She listened as the aliens explained their coalition. They had rules and laws that kept peace across the galaxy. They shared technology and resources. They protected each other from threats. What would Earth gain from joining? President Santos asked the assembled ambassadors. Veltar gestured and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed Earth as it could be, with cities in the clouds and ships traveling to distant stars. Medicine that can cure all disease, energy that costs nothing, food that can feed every person on your world, knowledge beyond your dreams. The crystal being who called itself Shardsinger added, "Your people would be free to travel the galaxy, to see wonders that few species ever witness, to learn from civilizations older than your recorded history." President Santos looked at Jake and Lisa. "What do you think?" Lisa spoke first. "The knowledge alone would advance human civilization by thousands of years. We could solve climate change, end hunger, cure cancer, everything." Jake was more careful. "It sounds too good to be true, ma'am. In my experience, when something sounds that good, there's usually a catch." Veltar smiled, showing teeth that were too white. "There is no catch, Captain Harrison. Only the requirement that all coalition members follow our laws of peace. No wars between member species. No development of certain dangerous technologies. No interference with pre-space civilizations." "Seems reasonable." President Santos said. What's the next step? Send representatives to our capital world, the floating being said in a voice that echoed strangely. Let them see what we offer, then decide if Earth wishes to join our great community. President Santos nodded. I'll send our best diplomats, and Captain Harrison will lead the security detail. Ambassador Chen Wei arrived 3 days later with a team of Earth's finest diplomats and scientists. Jake watched them prepare for the journey through the gateway. None of them seemed worried about traveling to another world. They were excited, talking about the opportunities and advantages Earth would gain. Jake checked his weapons one more time. He had a bad feeling about this, but he couldn't explain why. Maybe it was just nerves about traveling through alien technology to meet beings from across the galaxy. Ready, Captain? Ambassador Chen asked, adjusting his formal uniform. Jake nodded. As ready as anyone can be for something like this? They stepped through the gateway together. The world on the other side was beautiful beyond description. Crystal, spires reached toward purple skies and flying vehicles moved between them like birds. Beings of dozens of different species walked the streets in harmony. But as Jake watched the crowds, he noticed something that made his unease grow stronger. All the aliens they had met were there, and they were clearly in charge. The other species seemed to defer to them, stepping aside when they passed. It looked less like equality and more like a hierarchy, and humans were about to enter at the very bottom. 10 years had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Coalition. The gateway in the Sahara now buzzed with constant activity. Ships from dozens of worlds brought trade goods and visitors to Earth. Human colonies spread across 3 star systems, and Earth cities had grown beyond recognition with alien technology. Coordinator Alan Brooks stood in his office overlooking New Geneva, humanity's first major colony world. Through the massive windows, he watched human workers loading ore containers onto Cathari cargo ships. The work was hard, and the pay was low, but it was honest work that helped Earth meet its coalition obligations. Sir, we have another complaint. From the mining supervisors, his assistant said, handing him a tablet. The Zeftar overseers are pushing the workers too hard. 3 more humans were hospitalized yesterday. Alan sighed and set the tablet aside. Schedule a meeting with Administrator Zekthul. Again, maybe this time he'll listen. But Alan knew nothing would change. Over the years, he had learned that the coalition operated on a strict hierarchy. The founding races like the Zeftar and the Collective of Minds held all the real power. Newer species like humans were expected to provide labor and resources while staying quiet about their treatment. On the Coalition capital world, Dr. Sophie Turner worked late in the Science Institute's research lab. She had been there for 5 years, supposedly learning advanced coalition technologies. In reality, she spent most of her time organizing data for senior researchers who were all from the founding species. Tonight was different. She had finally gained access to the restricted files on fusion reactor technology. The designs were incredible, far beyond anything Earth had developed. More importantly, they were simple enough that human engineers could build them with existing materials. Sophie copied the files to her personal storage device. Earth needed this technology. The Coalition had promised to share their advances, but that promise had proven empty. If the Coalition wouldn't share willingly, she would take what Earth deserved. The lab door hissed open, and Administrator Velkoth entered. He was a tall being from the Collective of Minds with gray skin and eyes that seemed to see everything. Dr. Turner, working late again? Just finishing my reports, Sophie said, slipping the storage device into her pocket. Your dedication is admirable, Velkoth said, but his tone suggested he suspected something. Remember, all research data belongs to the Coalition. Unauthorized removal of files is a serious violation. Sophie nodded and gathered her things. Of course, Administrator, good night. She made it halfway to her quarters before Coalition security officers surrounded her. They found the storage device during their search, and by morning, Dr. Sophie Turner was in a Coalition detention facility awaiting trial for technology theft. The news reached Earth within hours. President Danny Rodriguez called an emergency meeting of the Earth Council. Jake Harrison, now Admiral of Earth's Small Space Defense Force, sat at the conference table with other military leaders. They arrested her for trying to share technology they promised to give us, Rodriguez said, pacing the room. This is exactly what we were afraid of when we joined. General Kate Williams spoke up. It's not just Sophie. We're getting reports from all our colonies. Coalition species treat our people like servants. Our requests for better working conditions are ignored. Our applications for advanced technology licenses are denied. Admiral Harrison leaned forward. I've seen it firsthand, Mr. President. Colonel Ryan Mitchell's reports from the outer colonies paint a clear picture. The Coalition doesn't see us as equals. They see us as a resource to be managed. Colonel Mitchell himself appeared on the main screen via secure transmission. His face showed exhaustion and anger. Yesterday, Coalition peacekeepers used force against human protesters on Terra Station. They were only asking for fair wages and safer working conditions. 3 humans are in the hospital with neural damage from stun weapons. The room fell silent. Neural stun weapons were banned for use against most Coalition species, but apparently not against humans. President Rodriguez stopped pacing. What are our options? We can't leave the Coalition. We depend on their trade routes and technology. Do we? Admiral Harrison asked. What exactly are we getting from this partnership? We provide raw materials, labor, and agricultural products. In return, we get basic medical supplies and transportation technology that's already decades old by Coalition standards. Dr. Emma Clark, who had taken over the Gateway Research Project after Dr. Martinez retired, raised her hand. There's something else you should know. My team has been studying the Gateway network more closely. It's not just for transportation. She activated a holographic display showing the network's structure. Every gateway has monitoring and control systems built in. The Coalition can track everything that passes through them: ships, people, information, even communications. They've been watching everything we do since day one. General Williams stood up sharply. You're saying they're spying on us through our own gateway? Worse than that, Emma continued. The gateways can be used to influence connected worlds. They emit low-level energy fields that can affect brain chemistry and decision-making. Most species don't even notice it, but humans seem to be more sensitive. Admiral Harrison felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying they've been controlling our minds? Not controlling exactly, but influencing, making us more compliant, less likely to question their authority or demand better treatment. It's subtle, but the effects are real. President Rodriguez sat down heavily. How long have you known about this? I've suspected for months, but I only confirmed it last week. I've been running tests on Earth-based personnel versus those who spend time near Coalition gateways. The brain scans show clear differences in areas related to independence and assertiveness. The implications hit everyone at once. The Coalition hadn't just been exploiting Earth's resources and people. They had been subtly altering human behavior to make that exploitation easier. What do we do now? General Williams asked. President Rodriguez looked around the room at Earth's top leaders. We have 2 choices. We can accept our place as a junior member of the Coalition, knowing we'll always be second-class citizens, or we can find another way. Admiral Harrison knew what the president was really asking. You want to know if we can survive without the Coalition? I want to know if we can be free, Rodriguez replied, because right now we're not free. We're just comfortable prisoners. Colonel Mitchell's voice came through the speakers. Sir, there's one more thing. Intelligence reports suggest the Coalition is planning something called the Human Integration Protocol. We don't know what it involves, but the timeline shows implementation beginning within 6 months. Dr. Clark pulled up another display. Based on what I've learned about gateway technology, I think there might be a way out. But it would mean cutting all ties with the Coalition. Forever. The room fell silent again. Everyone understood what that meant. No more trade, no more access to galactic civilization, no more easy solutions to Earth's problems. But also no more exploitation, no more second-class status, and no more subtle mind control. President Rodriguez looked at each person in turn. I want options on my desk within 48 hours. Real options for how Earth can become truly independent. Because I'm starting to think that comfortable slavery is still slavery. Admiral Harrison nodded grimly. The Coalition had given Earth a taste of galactic civilization, but the price was becoming too high. If they wanted to remain human, truly human, they might have to give it all up. The question was whether Earth had the strength to choose freedom over comfort, and whether they could survive what came next. 5 years had passed since Earth sealed the gateway and collapsed the galactic network. The world that emerged from that choice was stronger, smarter, and more determined than anyone had imagined possible. Admiral Jake Harrison, now commanding Earth's first faster-than-light exploration fleet, stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty as it approached the Proxima system. His ship used technology that had once seemed impossible, human-designed engines that could cross interstellar distances without depending on alien gateways. "Contact on long-range sensors," reported navigator Lisa Park. "Unknown vessel, approximately 2 light minutes out. Put it on screen," Harrison ordered. The main display showed a sleek ship with familiar crystalline structures along its hull. "That's a Cathari design. Send standard, peaceful greetings." The response came within minutes. "UES Liberty, this is the exploration vessel Crystal Song. We come seeking the humans of Earth. We have a message from our people." Harrison smiled. This was the third contact Earth had made with former Coalition species in the past year. Each time, the message was similar: gratitude for ending their slavery and requests for true partnership. On Earth, President Maria Santos stood before the United Nations Assembly. She had been re-elected twice since the sealing, leading humanity through its most challenging and rewarding period in history. "When we chose to seal the gateway," she told the assembled delegates, "many people thought we were condemning humanity to isolation and poverty. Instead, we discovered something remarkable. Freedom makes us stronger." The statistics supported her words. Without Coalition oversight restricting human technological development, Earth's scientists had made breakthrough after breakthrough. Clean fusion power now supplied every city on the planet. Medical advances had eliminated most diseases and extended human lifespan by decades. Dr. Emma Clark, now director of the Institute for Free Galactic Studies, had proven that the Gateway Network's subtle mind control had been holding back human creativity. Without that influence, human innovation had accelerated beyond all previous patterns. "We accomplished in 5 years what might have taken centuries under Coalition rule," she reported to the president. "And the same pattern is showing up on other worlds that were cut off from the network." The Cathari delegation arrived at Earth 3 weeks later. Crystal Singer Velnath, their leader, brought formal apologies for her species' role in humanity's exploitation. "We were not always as you knew us," she explained to President Santos during their first meeting. "Before the Coalition, we were warriors and explorers. The network's influence made us passive craftsmen who served without question." "What are you now?" Santos asked. "We are remembering who we used to be," Velnath replied. "Our children no longer feel the compulsion to serve. They ask questions, challenge authority, and dream of distant stars. They are becoming Cathari again, not Coalition subjects." The news from across the former Coalition territory was encouraging. Without the Gateway Network to maintain central control, the Empire had collapsed within months. Some species had descended into chaos, but many others had rediscovered their independence and begun building better civilizations. Commander Nick Parker, now captain of his own exploration vessel, brought back reports from the former Coalition core worlds. "The Zeftar Empire is gone. Their member worlds have declared independence and formed democratic alliances. The collective of minds has fractured into dozens of separate communities, each following their own path." Some news was tragic. Several species had become so dependent on Coalition support that they couldn't maintain their technology or feed their populations. Earth began sending aid missions to help these worlds rebuild, but always as equals, never as rulers. Captain Linda Hayes commanded one of these humanitarian missions. Her ships carried food, medical supplies, and technical advisors to worlds struggling with the transition to independence. "We're not trying to replace the Coalition," she told her crew as they approached a refugee planet. "We're here to help them learn to stand on their own." On the former Coalition capital world, the massive government complexes stood empty, Local species had formed a loose confederation to maintain basic services, but the old hierarchies were gone forever. Carlos Rivera, now Earth's ambassador to the region, sent regular reports on the political situation. It's messy, and sometimes chaotic, but it's genuine freedom. These species are making their own decisions for the first time in millennia. Back on Earth, the children who had been saved from the integration protocol were growing up in a world their parents could never have imagined. Robert Chen's granddaughter, who had been brain damaged by coalition neural suppressors, was learning to speak again with the help of new medical techniques developed by human doctors. She's getting better every day, Chen told Dr. Rachel Stone during a checkup. The damage isn't completely healed, but she's becoming herself again. Dr. Stone smiled as she watched the little girl playing with toys. She's lucky to be growing up in a free world. All our children are. The most remarkable development was Earth's first-generation ship, the New Horizon. Built with combined human and Cathari technology, it would carry 10,000 volunteers to establish humanity's first independent interstellar colony. Captain Jake Harrison, Jr., son of the Admiral, had volunteered to command the colony mission. At 28, he had grown up hearing stories of the Gateway War and Earth's choice of freedom over security. "My father's generation freed us from alien control," he told the crowd at the ship's launch ceremony. "My generation will prove that humans can build something better than what we left behind." The New Horizon launched on the 5th anniversary of the Gateway sealing. As it departed Earth's solar system, its young captain sent a final transmission to the home world. "Earth sealed the Gateway when the galaxy went too far," he said. "We chose freedom over comfort, independence over security. Now we're going to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when we're truly free to be ourselves." President Santos watched the ship disappear into the darkness between stars. Around her, the leadership of Earth reflected on how much had changed since that day in the Sahara, when Jake Harrison first discovered the alien gateway. "Do you ever regret our choice?" Admiral Harrison asked her quietly. Santos considered the question. Earth was no longer connected to galactic civilization. Humans had to solve their own problems and build their own future. It was harder in many ways, but also infinitely more rewarding. "Never," she replied. "The coalition offered us the stars, but they wanted to change what we are to get them. We chose to reach the stars ourselves as humans." The New Horizon's engines flared brighter as it reached the edge of the solar system. Soon it would be traveling faster than light, carrying human hopes and dreams to worlds that had never known coalition rule. Dr. Clark joined them at the observation deck. "Long-range sensors are picking up more ships approaching from Cathari space. I think they want to establish a permanent embassy here." "Good," Santos said. "It's time to build real alliances, not the fake partnerships the coalition offered, but genuine cooperation between free species." The future stretched out before them, uncertain, but full of possibilities. Earth had learned that freedom was more valuable than safety, that independence was worth any price. They had sealed the gateway when the galaxy went too far. Now they were ready to build a better galaxy, one free world at a time. As the New Horizon vanished into hyperspace, carrying humanity's dreams to the stars, those left behind on Earth knew they had made the right choice. The gateway was sealed, forever. But the human spirit was free to soar, and in the end, that made all the difference.